Hello and welcome back to Pin My Podfic. This is chapter 2, The Final Flame, part 4. It's still Midoriya's POV, and this is recorded right after part 3. So yeah, I still have my hoarse voice. I'm still not feeling very well, so yeah, don't expect very good quality, but I'm gonna try. Now on to the part. Midoriya opened his eyes. There was no air to breathe, no ground beneath his feet, not even a body he could call his own. He simply existed, suspended in black, silent vastness he knew all too well, the core, the heart of one for all, the boundless space of nothing, and yet heavier than any battlefield. Here, light didn't come from the sun or stars, but from the silhouette standing side by side like sentinels. The 8 previous wielders watched him, unmoving, their gazes serene, and yet burdened with a silent melancholy. But they weren't alone. Standing before them, set apart like a stain on the pure fabric of that place, was the man they all feared, the one they had never been able to drive out for good. All for one. He didn't appear as the deformed creature fused with muscle and hatred that Midoriya had fought on the battlefield, nor as the colossal monster that had risen in the physical world earlier. Here he stood tall, clad in immaculate black attire, as if dust and blood could never touch him. The metal mask covered his face, cold and unmoving, but there was something in it, more imperceptible contour, that gave the sense he was smiling without moving at all. The non-existent air grew heavier. His mere presence was suffocating, not because he yelled or threatened, but because he occupied the space as though he owned it, and in a way, he did. But what truly froze Midoriya's heart lay at his feet. Shimura Tenko, not the monstrous Shigaraki, but a fragile boy, no more than 6 years old. His skin was pale, hair unkempt, and shadowing his face, wrists and ankles bound by thick chains, so tight that flesh around them was swollen and bloodied. His small shoulders trembled, muffled sobs escaping as if he was afraid to even cry. Midoriya tried to step forward. Nothing. It was as if the core itself kept him in place, forcing him to watch. All for one tilted his head slightly, like one greeting an old acquaintance. When his voice came, it did not travel through the air. It was everywhere, echoing directly in the minds of everyone present. "Congratulations, Izuku Midoriya," he said with the calmness of one stating the obvious. He paused, his unseen gaze sweeping across the faces of the former wielders. "Congratulations to all of you. You fought with strength, courage, and above all, stubbornness." A quiet, joyless chuckle reverberated through the void. It was like a fissure spreading across the invisible ground. "But now, it's time to end this." He raised his gloved hand, turning the palm upward. His fingers spread slowly, as if he was about to grasp something that rightfully belonged to him. "It's time for me to observe one for all, and become what I was always destined to be." The last word felt heavy, like a seal slamming down on a tombstone. A demon king. Midoriya felt the weight of the title sink into him like a blade, but before he could respond, the line of wheelers shifted, sent like branches bending in the wind. Nana Shimura closed her eyes, her voice low, almost a whisper. "He's come this far, Yoichi, far beyond what we hoped." Daigoro Banjo clenched his fist, every muscle in his silhouette tense. "But that bastard still thinks he can take it all." Yoichi, the field's first wielder, stepped forward. His feet made no sound, yet every movement seemed to echo within Midoriya himself. His gaze was calm, but there was weariness in it, a weight of centuries. First he looked at All for One. And then he looked at all and turned to Midoriya, and he smiled. It wasn't a smile of victory, but of peace. The peace of someone who had finally accepted the price to be paid. Yes, he said, voice steady. It's time to end this. Midoriya blinked as if Yoichi's word had cut straight through every layer of fear, urgency, and doubt all at once. He opened his mouth to ask exactly what he meant, but there was no time. Yoichi took a slow breath, with something gathering the last of their strength before stepping off a cliff. I've always known what needed to be done, he said with the calm of someone speaking to an old friend. I just never had the courage. Midoriya frowned, taking a hesitant step forward. Courage for what? Yoichi raised his arms, not to present himself, but everyone standing behind him. To give everything. For a moment, the weight of those words made the entire core seem to contract. Nana Shimura stepped forward, placing a firm hand on his shoulder. Her face was turned toward All for One, but her eyes were on Izuku. There were tears there, not fear, but of pride. Midoriya, you already carry more than any of us could ever could, she said, her voice tight with emotion. But do it now. You need all that we have, and there's only one way that can happen. Daigoro Banjo cracked his knuckles. That's right, kid. Time to pass the torch for real. He chuckled. It was low, amongst almost sad laugh. One last time. And Hikage, Kudo, and Bruce didn't speak right away, but they simply moved, forming a half circle. Each of their eyes, Midoriya saw something different. Acceptance, longing, determination, and above all, faith. Yuichi closed his eyes, and Midoriya felt the ethereal air start to vibrate. Then it began. There was no wind in the core, yet something, whether the power of itself or the souls that sustained it, began to move around them. A subtle warmth, at first just a shiver, grew into a rising wave, filling the space. The edge of the vestiges' silhouettes began to glow, not with solid light, but like living embers, cracking silently. Midoriya's eyes widened. Wait, you don't have to do this. I can still fight. I can. Nana shook her head, cutting him off. You can, but only because we're going to give you the last spark. And then came the final acceptance. One by one, they leaned forward, allowing their solid forms to dissolve. Their silhouettes became golden sparks, drifting through the air like fireflies. Their outlines, no, was no pain in their faces. Instead, there was a rare lightness, as if they were going home. Banjo raised his fist in farewell. Take him off the map, kid. Hikage smiled for the first time in years. Let this be his last breath. Yuichi looked at Midoriya one final time. And let it be your first, free of his weight. And then they all turned to face All for One. The glow intensified, the sparks swirling together, spinning until they fused into a single towering flame. Alive, pulsing like a heart, and in unison, the 8 voices rang out, so firm they made the void tremble.
One for all is the flame.
The firestorm rose higher, stretching up into the nothing above them. Its heat didn't burn Midoriya, but to All for One, it was like a sun unleashed at point-blank range. For the first time, he stepped back. All for One raised both hands, trying to hold back the wall of fire surging toward him. From his fingertips, dozens of soaring quirks erupted at once. Blades of compressed air, walls of black steel, pulsing energy fields, even blasts of ice and pure darkness. Everything he had ever stolen, everything he had hoarded for centuries. But the flame didn't stop. It didn't just burn, it consumed, devouring every barrier with a dry crackle, like wood being reduced to ash, ice turned to vapor before it could touch it. Steel dissolved like wet paper. Darkness simply unraveled as if it had never existed. All for one roared. You think this is enough? I am the origin. I am the end. I created you. But the voices answered, cutting through his rage with perfect unity.
Unlike every flame, we can feed.
The blaze surged forward, a molten river swallowing a dam. It hit All for One with a force that was more than physical. It was spiritual. Midoriya felt the impact echo inside his own chest, as if the energy were a part of him. And it was. His mask began to melt. First, the golden trim warped like wax in the heat. Then, the polished black gave way to flesh, which vaporized instantly, leaving only an acrid, metallic scent that drifted away in the void. He tried to cling to something, but there was nothing. The once steady fingers crumbled to dust as they closed. His screams changed, not rage anymore, but pure fear. No, I still. The fire gave him no space. It surged into every crack, every fragment, burning through not just his body, but his essence. Midoriya could see, whether he wanted to or not, shards of memories and malice being ripped away like rotten boards from a collapsing house. The eight voices roared one final time.
Burn his soul forever.
The flash that followed wasn't light, it was absence, a void where, for centuries, an unshakable terror had existed, and now it was nothing. When the light finally faded, there were no more screams, no more masks, no more All for One, only faint golden embers drifting in the void, like stardust, and one by one, they winked out. Emptiness settled. The last remnants of the predecessor's sacrifice floated slowly, like golden snowflakes that could never touch the ground. There was no sound, no wind, no breath, not even the echo of the screams that, just moments ago, seemed to tear this place apart. Midoriya was on his knees, hands clenched over his thighs, shoulders hunched, his whole body trembling. It wasn't physical exhaustion. It was the weight, the crushing weight of knowing it was over. And yet, there was no rush of relief. The absence of All for One didn't bring an explosion of joy, only a heavy silence. It felt as if the universe was taking a deep breath before deciding what it should do come next. What would come next? A young hero slowly lifted his head. The space around him was the same, the core, the dark void he knew, but somehow it felt less cold, still shadowed, but with an odd sense of rest, like a room finally shut after a long night of storms. Then he heard it. Footsteps. Small, hesitant ones. They didn't echo in the air, but Midoriya felt each one reverberate as if they were stepping inside his chest. He turned toward the sound, and there he was. Shimura Tenko. Not the Shigaraki torn apart by battle, not the villain shaped by hatred, but just a frail little boy, barefoot, dressed in simple torn clothes, as if he had just escaped from somewhere he should never have been. Messy hair fell over his face, but couldn't hide his eyes, wide, still afraid, but without the burning spark of the monster he had become. The eyes of a child. The chains that had bound him were gone. There were where the iron had once torn into his skin. There were only faded marks now, like old scars that no longer hurt. Tango walked slowly, as if unsure whether the ground would still be there for the next step. Every time he glanced at Midoriya, it was like he was searching for something, maybe confirmation that he wasn't alone. Midoriya took a deep breath and realized that, for the first time, the fight began. The air didn't burn in his lungs. Still kneeling, he straightened his posture and extended a hand forward. Hey, Tenko. His voice came out soft, almost a whisper, but in the void it sounded like the only sound that existed. Tenko froze, his eyes widened. His lips moved slowly, forming a silent question before he could manage to speak for real. You know my name? Izuku nodded. There was no rush in his reply. He wanted every second of this moment to be etched into the boy's heart. I do, he said with a faint smile. I've always known. Tango blinked, confused. But why call me that? Everyone calls me Shigaraki. The name came out hesitant, as if he wasn't even sure he wanted to say it. Midoriya drew in a steady breath, leaning forward until he was at the boy's eye level. Because that's not your real name, he answered, firm but gentle. It's just a mask they put on you, the weight they force you to carry, but it's not who you are. Tango looked away, as if searching for the ground for proof he could believe those words. His small fingers pressed into his legs, his whole body trembling lightly. Then, who am I? He asked, his voice so thin it sounded like it had taken years of silence just to break free. Midoriya felt the knot in his throat tighten. There were so many things he could say, so many truths and lies he could offer, but he chose the only answer that wouldn't tarnish this moment. You're Tenko, Shimura Tenko, he said, his voice steady but filled with compassion. The boy who just wanted to play with his dog in the yard, who just wanted his mother's hugs, who cried for help, but no one answered. Tenko squeezed his eyes shut, as if the memories were a storm threatening to knock him down. Midoriya went on, carefully, almost surgically. You were swallowed by a pain that no one should ever feel, and he used you to hurt the world. The boy's breathing trembled. Then he opened his eyes again. They were glassy with unshed tears. But there was something new in them. Not hope, not yet, but a spark that could become it. Midoriya held out his hand again. But now, you're free, Tango, and I'm here. For a moment, Tango didn't move. Then slowly, he stepped forward and took the offered hand. It was fragile. It was a fragile, hesitant touch, but it was real. And in that instant, Midoriya knew that for the first time, he wasn't just winning a fight. He was saving someone. The fragile touch of Tenko's fingers made the hero squeeze his hand gently, as if holding something made of glass. Tenko swallowed hard, his voice still trembling. I hurt so many people. Midoriya didn't look away. Yes, he answered without softening the truth. But it wasn't just you. He shaped you for this, broke who you were, and put someone else in your place. The voice lowered his head. I don't want to forget what I did, but I also don't want to be all that. But I also don't want that to be all that I am. Midoriya stepped closer and placed his free hand on Tenko's thin shoulder. Let's start again. Here. Now. Tenko stared at him for a long moment. Then, with almost an imperceptible movement, stepped forward and threw himself into the hero's arms. The embrace was tight, urgent. Small hands clung to Midoriya's torn tunic as if he were the last safe place in the world. The hero closed his eyes, resting his chin on the boy's messy hair. I'm here now, the boy whispered, and you will never be alone again. Tenko's crying was no longer the same muffled sob as before. Now there was something freeing in it, as if each tear washed away a little of the darkness that had summoned him for so long. Slowly, a warm light began to envelop the boy's body. It was soft, golden, pulsing like a heart. Tenko stepped back, just enough to look at his own hands, startled and amazed. What's happening? Midoriya smiled, despite the tears running down his face. You're going back to where you always should have been. Will it hurt? The boy asked, with the insecurity of someone still afraid to suffer again. No, Midoriya replied. It will be like the summer breeze in your backyard. For a moment, Tenko seemed not to believe it, but then a small smile appeared on his face, a real childlike smile. He took another step and wrapped Midoriya in one last embrace. Will you be okay? I'll try, the hero said, his voice choked. Because now, I have one more reason. The golden light intensified, covering Tenko's body until his outline began to fade. There was no pain, no fear, only warmth. Then the last fragment of the child dissolved into the air like golden dust. Midoriya understood it wasn't a farewell. It was freedom. And that was it for, well, this is for chapter 2. This is the last part to chapter 2. And yeah, I really did need to do a lot of editing for now, and my voice is, I need to drink water after this. And I'm just trying to layer on different voices for the vestiges. I sing in a choir, so like for a couple years now actually. So I have a very wide range for a voice, but I can't do 8 voices. I'm still trying to figure out which voice is which. Just know the highest one is Nana. She's the only girl in the group. Now that I think about it, Toshinori, bro, Nana is like, damn. Toshinori, why couldn't you choose a girl? I'm lonely here. I'm lonely. And anyways, as I was saying, that's the end of chapter 2 of After the Fall by Innocent with on an underscore reader. On AO3, check them out. They're great. And as I don't know what other works they've made, but I'm gonna also ask for permission to podfic the entire series that this work is part of, that After the Fall is a part of, so that I can, it's kind of a saga, so that I can keep on with this. I really like their work, as you can tell. And yeah, go check them out. I'm not sure what other works they have, but like they of course do. So check them out and check out their other works. Let me see real quick. They have other works about young justice, and is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon, which is an anime. I think I've heard of it before, but yeah, they are very from what I've what I've seen in like replies and stuff. They're a pretty good person. I think they're chill. I think. Don't come at me. Anyways, yeah, I think they're good. Yeah, go check them out. And yeah, like and subscribe, whatever. I don't really care about like promoting myself. I just want to promote others. So yeah, bye.